David MacKinnon.
そしてペイトンも振り抜いてきました。
一度飛んだ。ペイトンもう見送った。Mark Payton with a pinch hit game-tying homer.
You know what's funny about doing this podcast?
That people actually listen to us?
Well, that too. But really, we keep finding these stories where two people go through essentially exactly the same experience and come out with a completely different tales.
Like kind of how you can sign with the same team in Japan, but somehow end up having completely different year and different experiences.
Absolutely. And again, that sounds like someone who's questioning his life choices. David, I'm Jasper Spanjar. This is Pacific Swings, the podcast that takes you into baseball's global stage.
I'm Dave MacKinnon. We're talking with Mark Payton, my former teammate of the Seibu Lions in 2023. And he just figured out pretty much how to make the most of what I would say would be a challenging season, frustrating season, health-wise. And he still crushed it over in Japan.
Yeah, and a little bit of a background on Mark. He was drafted by the Yankees in 2013, made his MLB debut with Oakland in 2020, and most importantly, has a better MLB batting average than David.
Which isn't hard to do.
Mark Payton, welcome to Pacific Swings.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so the batting average, so we've got that done and dusted.
Not good. I don't even want it to be told. I might have you by 8 points. I'll just say I'm somewhere around there.
Dude, we rake.
I think I got a cheap hit my last ever big league at bat. I was like probably hit it about 62 miles an hour over the second baseman's head in the last game of the season when nobody wanted to play.
For that.
But again, I think it just speaks testament that if we were to combine you two guys, and you have a beautiful batting average, you're in the Hall of Fame, the both of you.
Honestly, if we combine us, we're like borderline maybe. Yeah, we're a good ball player. We're like maybe in the Hall of Fame. We're an all-star this year, probably.
Oh, easily.
Mark, let's start with this, because you and David both signed with Seibu in the same off-season. So we actually want to run the press introduction first, because we have that lined up, which is just all kinds of beautiful.
Oh, man.
My name is Mark Payton.
I can't. All right.
It's
so
just beautiful. Go on.
All right. So we're standing like in line, and
I forgot about that.
Our translator Kobe is, it'd be great if you guys, said my name is, so and so in Japanese, and like my brain just wasn't working. I kept going in line before they're introducing us to go out on the stage or in front of the podiums, and I'm like, Watashi wa Owakaku, like what, just a bunch of different things going in my head, and like I kept asking Dave and I kept asking Jesus and like Tashiwa, but I was saying it wrong. And then like we got up there and I'm the last one to go, and like I heard it and it just didn't register in my head, and I'm like, you know what, instead of just completely screwing up this word, we're just gonna do this in English.
It's so great because you see David sort of plowing through his Japanese, and it's like, hi, I'm Mark. It's just,
and it couldn't even been like, that's like the most American name ever. Like, I'm Mark.
Hi, Mark. Yeah. I'm like, I was having such a tough time, like leading up to that. And like, I'm not usually a pretty nervous person. I don't like public speaking, but like, I just couldn't get Otashiwa down. And now it's a word I'll never forget.
Looking back on that day, though, because it's quite interesting to get your perspective, just you and David, obviously, sort of signing at the same time, going over to Japan at the same time. What was your first impression of the organization in Japan?
I mean, I loved it. I mean, from the time, from the first class ticket to getting over there instead of sitting in economy was great. And then obviously it's a really long flight, but getting off and getting picked up by 3 people and carrying your bags and kind of the long trip from the Tokyo airport all the way to Tanashi. I didn't know what to expect really going over there. I'd played over there in the past, but never was treated like I was when I got off that plane. and it was good. Got sushi right away, right when we got back and dropped our stuff off at Tanashi. Walked to the train station and grabbed sushi. And, Kobe was great. Kobe helped us out. And kind of that night got some good sleep, then woke up and put on our suit again and got picked up by 3 people and kind of like a limo van type of thing to take all of us foreigners, over to the stadium and show us around and get ready for that press conference.
How surreal is that though, sort of waking up and going, well, okay, I'm in Japan now and I'm suited up, ready to go. That must have been
different. I mean, it's different because it's a non-English speaking country. You're over there on your own, putting your trust in everybody that's been over there, and obviously leaning on the other foreigners that are there with you, because that's kind of your only form of communication, especially with the time difference. You're not calling the United States in the middle of the day because they're sleeping. So kind of just put your trust into everything they're saying and go with the flow until, you earn their respect and you can kind of get around on your own.
What would you say made you realize that like this wasn't just going to be another professional baseball season in AAA? Like it was completely different.
I think post press conference, them telling us that we had a flight the next day for a 2-month spring training down in Miyazaki for a month at the Prince Nango Hotel. And I think that's when it really, really hit me, is kind of when we flew into Miyazaki and had an hour-and-a-half bus ride past the other 4 spring training facilities, and ours was 45 minutes secluded from everywhere else, and kind of getting right into things. I mean, like you felt a part of the team in a sense, and you're wearing all their stuff and had all the gear and everything. But when you're the new guy, you kind of got to earn your respect and be quiet until people get to know who you are and people know what you're about. But I just remember the time difference. We were all waking up at 3 a.m. in Miyazaki, and I think that's kind of when waiting for breakfast at 6 to open up. We're texting each other
the
like
time difference was tough.
That was, the first week we're up at 3 a.m. when breakfast doesn't start till 6. And that was kind of the biggest realization moment for me, was like, hey, we're here. There's nowhere to go. We're in this thing, and we kind of got to lean on each other to kind of at least get through this first month.
Yeah. And like, obviously with spring training, there's a lot of downtime. I mean, especially the older guys, some of the younger guys would stay all day long, keep playing, but the older guys, we would get our work in, usually be done by 2 or so unless we had a game. And you're just leaning on your foreign guys, And then we had that 6 sauna hot tub area where you could go down. The sauna life down there is crazy, dude. Because we had this like awesome view of just the water, and like almost looked like where like King Kong would live. Like it was like there's like mini islands out there. There's just nothing, And that was our hotel, and like you had the hot tub, and it was pretty cold in Miyazaki.
Yeah. But what would you say was sort of the biggest shock you had, even if it's just during practice or something that you just went, okay, getting a bit uncomfortable maybe at first, but I understand maybe why they do it? Or was there any type of moment like that for you?
I think the amount of defense that we did leading up to lunchtime, especially in spring, where if we were out on the field at 8:30 for stretch outside of the 45-minute warm-up to kind of get loose, which is completely different than the States. But you're basically doing individual and team defense all the way up until lunch. And, I think you guys have talked about Mr. Baseball, but, hitting is the cherry on top for them. You do all of your work, and then hitting's the fun part, and it's always the last part, versus, I love to hit, and, what that would be, let me get my focus on that. I care about defense and I love defense, but just the amount, the hour and a half of individual defense, the hour and a half and structure of the team defense and cuts and relays, and every throw's got to be perfect, and every, relay's got to be perfect, and all sorts of things. But also on the flip side, like David said, like the younger guys, the amount of work that they put in and the amount of extra work they put in on whatever it is they're doing that day. I mean, they're stuck there for another 3-4 hours. The older guys leave was shocking to me.
And I think the sort of attention to detail is something we'll continue to cover on this podcast, because it does feel like they practice stuff until they really can't get it wrong. Where you see a pitcher, playing his position at the MLB level, where pitchers occasionally make mistakes with simple plays to first base, and it's like you just don't see that in Japan, right?
No, and the other, the crazy part is those are their best athletes. Where in America we always make fun of the pitchers for not being athletes. And defensive practice, you're seeing guys, and they're all dirt infields during spring training. You're seeing guys filled head to toe in dirt, in black dirt, and their pants are completely grass stained. Every ball is meant to be caught. Every ball is meant to be kept in front of them. And, something I respect, but something you'll never see anybody in batting practice in individual defense diving around the field. I mean, even sliding when we're running bases, just, first to third practicing, like where the third base coach is telling guys to get down. You'll never, ever see that in the States. And, just like I said, head to toe in black dirt.
Yes.
I mean, it's just stuff you just don't see it, and I respected it because they truly practiced the way they want to play in the game.
Mm-hmm. They did, for sure. What were your thoughts on Pepper? How good were we at Pepper compared to the rest of the team?
I think, we got to about league average by the time that first month of camp ended. But I mean, we needed an outfield the first week. We needed OB, or we needed Shima to stand either behind the hitter or behind, us fielding the ball that first week, because it was a little sloppy.
That was my biggest thing, I think, when we did. They were like, all right, we're playing Pepper. And I was like, Pepper?
Just one-on-one Pepper.
Yeah, just one-on-one Pepper. Throwing the ball. Guy hits it back.
Yes.
And, the Japanese guys were just like, dink, right one hop perfectly. Just such good back control. And me and Mark were over there just like idiots trying to hit the ball back to each other. And we have no back control whatsoever. We're barreling these balls sometimes. And they're just getting hit way too hard.
Way too hard.
Or we just miss them completely because we're trying to decelerate.
Man, and I couldn't believe how long, each of us were hitting or each of us were playing defense. I thought I went over there in pretty good shape. And my legs were it was an entire workout playing defense. Just some interesting, different things that they do over there, to whether that's just prep for them to get their mind right. But, for me, it was this kind of was like, hey, we're here. We're done with warm up. We're done playing catch. All right, let's get into our day now.
And then leading up to opening day, you're making your NPB debut as a starter against the Orcs Buffalo. You're hitting leadoff. How did that feel for you?
I mean, obviously, any opening day, there's a rush, there's butterflies, there's a crazy amount of adrenaline, excitement. And luckily we were at home, so we had our fans. We had a great fan base, and it was great. Obviously, I had a couple medium-sized injuries leading up to opening day, so my second portion of spring really got cut short. The amount of at-bats I really wanted to get was not there. And my biggest goal through that day was, let's get through this day healthy and try to perform. There's no excuses anymore. In spring, you have some excuses, and timing's not right, swing's not there yet, body's not caught up to speed of the pitching, different shapes and forms of pitching that they have over there. At that point, you just go out there and compete. I kind of remember, and I love hitting leadoff. I'm not your typical leadoff hitter, but it's something I really enjoy doing. But I kind of remember, sitting there today, I'm like, I'm a first pitch swinger, and that's why I'm not a leadoff hitter. I'm going to try to take, Yamashita, who we knew was a really good pitcher and a really young kid. I'm like, he's going to just try to throw a fastball in the zone to get his season going. I'm like, I want to go first pitch and see if I can, hit a homer. I don't think I didn't get a first pitch strike, but I had a couple foul balls, and I believe it was a 2-2 curveball that I just tapped back to him. But, just, go out there and compete on opening day and hear the fans. You hear about them, had a couple in spring training, but not as loud as when they packed the Seibu Dome, and it's echoing through the roof, and it was a blast. I'll never forget the opening day over there and the festivities. And the other thing I remember too about opening day, I noticed it in spring, it's their players never A, look overmatched, or B, look too emotional. They just kind of look like they go with the flow, whether they're going good or bad. It's business like. You see excitement on big hits, but you just don't see, in America, you got to face DeGrom, and you're like the guy off the bench, and you're like, well, I'm glad the superstar gets a day off today, and I got to go face the best pitcher in baseball. You never see that out of those guys over there. They just go and take care of their business, never look overmatched or look like they don't want to do something.
Yeah, their role might be one game a week. And a lot of them are pretty good at, they can put together 4 decent at-bats, where a lot of the American guys, I feel like, don't do that as well. But let's talk about your setbacks, okay? So I'm going to give background briefly of your setbacks. So, Mark just had a rough spell in spring training, honestly.
Horrible,
But
really
horrible luck.
horrible spell.
He was
Horrible
good
spell.
good in Miyazaki.
Yeah.
Like, no health issues. We get back to games in like Tokyo, and we're back playing the stadiums. Mark, I think it's a Chinuchi minor leaguer lefty.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, it was
like
their first rounder that was throwing, harder than I thought on a 3-2 count.
yeah,
Not
it was
good.
like it was probably he was supposed to be 84 to 88, and he has
Yeah, and
probably
he was
88 to 92.
So yeah,
I
he was
bet, somewhere in
throwing
there.
harder than I thought, and it
Yeah,
was
and he
you know,
just
like, we
domed him
didn't
up straight to the
just
ear.
smoked me. Ball went back. Ball literally bounced all the way back to the pitcher's mound.
Yep. And so Mark goes down on the ground. This is kind of the funny part of it now that he's
Yeah.
healthy and
This
he
is
didn't get hurt.
it's so,
Yeah, Mark,
it's
it's a bit of a bit of a cruel show
yeah,
this at
but
times.
it is, and it's something like I take pride in always getting up, regardless
Yes.
of the injury, getting up and at least walking off the field or whatever the case. So I
And
get
they
hit
were
in the
like,
head.
Mark, stay down. And Mark's like, I'm fine.
Like I'm fine. I was dizzy and the lights were a little bit brighter. I try to get up and, I just hear, Japanese voices with some tone behind them. There's like 3 voices of Japanese going on, obviously saying, stay down, stay down, stay down. And I hear Kobe, who runs out there translating it, stay down, stay down, stay down. And Kobe doesn't have a loud voice whatsoever. He was very mellow toned,
Yeah.
but Kobe's voice increased. And I'm like, I'm good. I'm good. And Kobe's like, no, stay down, stay down. And I'm like, all right, I'll stay down. So I'm laying there on my back looking at the top of the Seibu Dome. And a minute later, here comes one of their small orange stretchers. So I literally get put on this stretcher, and 4 guys and Kobe, literally, I'm laying on my back on the stretcher, just looking up at the ceiling, and they stretcher me right into our, the small locker room we had behind our dugout. And they're just keep me on there, throw some ice on my forehead and everything. And you could feel the panic in the room a little bit, just with the amount of voices being said, the team doctor now being down there, Kobe trying to translate what 3 different people are saying at the same time, and obviously the game's got to go on. They're like, we got to get you to a hospital right away. We got it. I'm like, guys, I understand. I feel fine. I'm, a little bit lightheaded. Finally, I'm like, guys, I got to get off this stretcher. Like, can I sit in a chair? I'm getting picked up by the armpits by 2 different people, and very respect. Like, I get it. Like, especially as a foreigner, they, you get hit in the head. If you do get knocked out or whatever the case, they treated me as well as they could.
Yeah.
Did I like getting carried off on the field on a stretcher? No, I've never laid down on the field and not gotten up.
No, yeah.
You get taken to the hospital and get a bunch of testing done, and luckily it ended up just kind of swelling up a little bit. Nothing,
There was
no brain bleed,
minor concussion.
Yeah, it was a minor concussion,
Yeah.
and they didn't let me do anything basically for the next 2 weeks. Just sit in my apartment. And the other, I understand why they did what they did, but we had our own 3-bedroom apartment. For the first 4 nights, they made Kobe sleep, in one of the bedrooms in my apartment, and come and check on me every 2 hours to make sure that I was fine, even in the middle of the night. So I get why they did what they did. And it was really respectful, and they handled it as good as they could, even though I thought I was fine, but they did a good job checking on me. I just wish that I was able to walk off the field.
Yeah, the funny thing was, because we were just told after, why wasn't Mark allowed to walk off the field? And they were like, oh, it's just protocol. Someone gets hit in the head, they just put him on a stretcher. And then probably 2 weeks later, a Japanese guy got smoked in the head, and he just walked to first base. We're like, what? Where's the protocol? But so yeah, Mark comes back. After his 2 weeks of his 2-week vacation, his first 2-week vacation. And we're back in Chiba.
We're in Chiba and we get rained out.
We're practicing, right? Yeah. And I remember I was going through it, not a bad injury, but I had my first ever, what is it called? the
Sinus?
sinus infection, full blown sinus infection. Like I couldn't even like breathe. So I'm going through it. I had to go to the doctors at Chiba. And then Mark comes back. He's excited. He's ready to go.
Pumped up.
And we're doing stretching backwards. It's like a backward.
Yeah.
I don't even know
We're doing like
skipping.
a backward skip with like a hip, like we're opening up our hip.
Opening the
You know,
hips.
like-
and Mark all of a sudden like is just on the ground writhing in pain. And I turn around like, what happened? Mark tweaked his ankle bad.
Just destroyed.
Like it just rolled over completely, like black and blue, not good.
Immediately
Huge.
swelling, everything. I mean, it was, it was probably my fault. I was wearing gym shoes and not spikes on that indoor turf, just because it was bouncy and like different than what we're used to in the States, and just completely rolled it. Heard a bunch of noises down in my ankle. I'm like, we got to be kidding me. So go get an MRI. A couple days later, you have a bunch of inflammation in there, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, perfect. I asked, I'm like, can I get, a cortisone injection, to calm this thing down? And opening day's right around the corner. We got to get ready. And, they're like, let's get this thing right. I'm like, guys, I want to play. I came out here to play. What kind of injections do you have? And what I thought I was getting was cortisone. They come to find out they don't have cortisone in Japan. They injected me. It had to have been 3 days before opening day, get 1 day of at-bats against, and something that kind of nagged on me the rest of the year, especially the first month while I was playing, until, I kind of told them I'm shutting it down. I can't run. I can't hit. I just couldn't be who I was. I'm like, guys, I got to get this thing right. And finally, had a conversation with our manager, our GM. And it wasn't a comfortable conversation to have, but I also wasn't performing well, and I'm sure they wanted me to perform better.
But what'd you do during your rehab? What was the rehab like? And then what'd you do when you got out of the stadium at 11 or 12?
Well, I mean,
What didn't you do? That
was first off, it was a grind, because you're back on basically an American style spring training day, where the days start at 8. So I was having to get there at 7 o'clock, whether I was practicing that day or not. For like the first month, I couldn't hit, no throwing, no anything, basically. Basically get there and, do some ultrasound. They had a weird type of stim machine. It was doing something. It was supposed to heal. Yeah. So you don't feel anything, but like it's healing the bone. But by the end of the month, I remember this. I remember our international guy coming up and, having a conversation with me, Kobe, and the actual GM. And I'm like, hey, we gotta figure out where you're at on this ankle. I'm like, it still hurts. So then we do another round of injections just to see if we can get more of that swelling out of there, just some of the pain out of there. They give me 2 full days off. Come back in. I'm like, guys, it actually feels pretty good. So every Tuesday from then on out, for the next couple of weeks, we tried to just jog. And if I didn't have pain, then the next day we would jog again until I can go 4 days without pain. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, and I wasn't lying to them, but I'm like, guys, it's good enough to start trying to sprint, at least in a straight line. I got to start playing. At this point, the season's getting close to halfway, 2.5 months into the season. In the back of my head too, I'm like, I don't want them to bring in another guy. And then when I am healthy, I'm stuck down here. Like, I was enjoying my time. I enjoyed the new teammates. Like, the goal at this point was to try to come back here and play, especially the following season, and I'm like, all right, let's get going. So then it was about a week build up. Once I was semi pain free, 30 at bats in, I'm feeling good enough. I'm, taping the ankle. I'm putting a icy hot gel that they have on it so that I could play 9 innings, making sure I get in hot and cold tubs so that my body's numb enough to withstand 9 innings on a turf field. And you guys got hot. The Lions got really, really hot toward the end of interleague or the exchange play.
You guys, and then we started the second half, and then we got ice cold.
Right, and when you guys got ice cold, that's when I came back.
Yeah,
so they didn't. They
was
weren't
end of June hot, July ice cold.
Yeah, so right when you guys lost a few games, I came back. We got to communicate. We got to talk. And like, I'm sure, like I didn't go through it, but being the only hitter there and the only English speaker, not really able, and the foreigners got pitched differently, but like somebody that you can really trust about what the ball looked like coming in or where his arm angle is, or like when you actually picked up the ball, or, all sorts of things.
Well,
I'm
just
sure it was
having
tough for
someone to
Dave.
like kind of complain
And just-
to, vent to.
Or just talk. Yeah,
you
just
know?
talk, just like literally talk to. And yeah, but I remember coming back and I got off to a decent start and everything. And, we were at that time, I think we were only 5 out of a playoff spot.
Yeah, I mean, dude, we
We kind of, and we
stayed
were right
relatively
there
close the whole year, and then
for the Lions to kind of stay in that playoff hunt for a majority of the season was pretty impressive, especially with how young the guys that filled in that season were.
And they had a relatively decent first baseman there, which helped. That's
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
ninja over there, man. I was a freaking
Right,
ninja.
the Yakiniku Ninja.
Mark, I want to pivot back to sort of that time though, when you're rehabbing that injury and you're essentially living that sort of solo Japanese life for a little bit. How do you handle that mentally to sort of stay even keeled and, well, try to enjoy Japan at least, or try to enjoy Tokyo, but at the same time, like, I mean, that must have, I don't want it to be too depressing of a podcast, but that must have felt quite lonely at times.
Yeah, I mean, it was just because, like I said, you're not able to really talk and communicate with anybody in the States through those main hours of the day, because everyone over in the States is sleeping, so, I think the most depressing part of that whole day and that entire time period was when I was done with my rehab and treatment. I'm walking back to the train.
Yeah.
And David's showing up to get ready to play. I'm getting on the 126 train heading back to Tanashi, and he's getting off the 1240 train at the Seibu Dome, getting ready to go through his day, where I should be. And that to me was the toughest part, was leaving the stadium, watching the guys I should be playing with, but then also like, something, that I'm happy I did is without walking too much, I did get to see a lot of Tokyo. I would go, take the train from Tanashi down to Harajuku and Shibuya and
Big
Shinjuku.
Harajuku guy.
I love it. They had good restaurants, and it was a little bit, when I missed America, there was a nice barbecue place that I got to, meet the people that work there, and they would turn on the line. They would find a way to turn the Lions game on at night, and I would sit there and order some barbecue, and so like I got a little bit of home by going there and just hearing English being spoken, but also getting to see the Japanese culture and other things I wouldn't have gotten to do. Basically, going to see a movie in Japanese with English subtitles, or picking out the one time a day that they were showing an English showing at the movies, and go there and trying different restaurants that you find online, or seeing where the longest lines are. Took it as a blessing in disguise to be able to kind of see that part of the world while I wasn't playing. I didn't take too much advantage of it because I knew I had a job to get healthy, but did get to kind of see different parts of Tokyo that I definitely wouldn't have tried.
That's really cool. I mean, that's the one thing David keeps telling me, that I was too busy playing there. I need to vacation there one day. So, hey, at least, you got something out of it. I mean, it might not have been why you went over there, but you definitely got something out of it. I want to sort of touch on another thing that we did sort of skip over, because you arrived together in Japan. You form this bond, obviously, because you're sort of forced it. One way you're forced into that bond, but your personalities match, and you become friends. But then for both of you guys, sort of, Dave, that must have not been easy for you to sort of watch your buddy go through all these health problems, and that like he can't do anything about. Like he's sort of a victim to that. But what was that like for you?
For me, it was, well, because like we have pitchers too in Japan, right? The foreign pitchers, but like they're not even around half the time. No, like sorry to the like even the pitchers in Japan, they are so good, dude. Sometimes they're like silent assassins, where like the starting pitchers, you see them like once a week, because after they're done with practice and their lift, they just go home. On the road games, if they're not pitching at that series, they don't come. They just stay home. So sometimes you like might not see Mai for a week, and then all of a sudden he shows up, throws 8 shutout, and leaves. You know, you're like, oh, good job, Mai. I'll see you next week, dude. So with Mark's gone. When Mark wasn't there yet, it was tough. So selfishly, I wish Mark was healthy all year so that I could talk to him and talk hitting, talk adjustments, talk different things like that. But yeah, it was definitely hard. I feel like when Mark was there, I played better because you can just talk and vent. And I think when Mark was there, we definitely had a good thing going. Also, before we even got to Japan, me and Mark were talking beforehand.
It was cool because like we created a relationship. We were sending each other swings, prior to even like getting into Japan.
Yeah.
And like what we're working on, what we're feeling, like, and we didn't even know each other. We never played against each other. We had never talked to each other. We haven't seen each other in other dugouts. And like, we're kind of just bouncing back and forth between, swings in the end of December and early January before we left. I'll never forget this. Like this was, back to like January. I'm like, hey, what bat are you swinging? Because I didn't know this at the time, but the company that I swing for my, basically for my entire career was not NPB certified.
Yeah.
That was a whole conversation. And I went down a deep rabbit hole kind of panicking because I had swung the same bat for 9 years of my career. And the bat that I had swung couldn't swing anymore, and kind of like going through 4 different bat companies in Japan to see who can make my model the best. So if we would have never had that conversation, I would have went over there and just grabbed the bat out of a bag, or just thought my bats were okay until someone said, hey, this is not good. Like, you can't use this over here. But it was cool. The conversations leading up obviously created, an easy transition relationship when we met each other in Japan that first night.
Mark, you got to see firsthand some really incredible talent during your time there in Japan. Is there any player that either your own teammate or just a guy you saw play who impressed you the most?
Not me, okay? Not me.
Yeah,
Oh,
don't say
man.
David MacKinnon.
No, I was going to go Dave. I mean, you got to go Dave.
I'm going to say Dave,
honestly,
but I think Yanagita might take the cake there.
I was going to say, yeah, the style of play and the way the swing is taught is so different. And I come to really like the way that it is because it's contact first, and then their power guys they have contact and power tools. Yanagita was, power, speed, contact, defense, arm, everything kind of under one roof. You could pick one guy from every team if you really wanted to. That could be a superstar anywhere in the world. But, Mori, and the amount of movement that he had in his swing and the big leg kick, and there was no swing and miss. And for basically a guy that's 5'7" to be able to hit the ball as far as he did. And then you flip it and you look at like Genda and the non-strikeout contact ability, kind of be able to put the ball where he wants to put it. But then the defense aspect might be the best defender. He might potentially the best defender in the world between arm, range, and hands. But like I said, you could pick one guy from every team. Rakuten had the young shortstop, Murabayashi.
Dude, you forgot Kondo.
I mean, Kondo.
That dude might be the best player like no one ever knows about.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on like what about pitchers? Like, what's your favorite? Like, toughest at bat, and just anyone who you think like he's probably not coming over, but he could come over pretty easily.
Well, the best pitcher. I think don't look at the stat lines in the States, but the bet, just because I've had really poor success off of one certain guy, but Yamashita Shunpeita is the best pitcher I've seen in my life.
Really?
Hands down. Yeah. Hands down the best pitcher I've seen in my life.
What makes you say that?
Well, he hides the ball. It's a bigger body for the Japanese stature. To me, the fastball exploded, and his curveball came out of the same slot. It was electric. He spins the ball really well. And then that weird Shuto / splitter that he throws.
Doesn't throw it much. She started adding it more, but he did throw it to you.
But he did throw it to me. But like the most impressive thing about him, and I didn't find this out until about the 4th time we saw him, was he was basically at that time in 23 was only working on 2 pitches per game.
Yeah, he was only doing 2 pitches pretty much.
That's insane for a starter.
And which was crazy because what's cool about it is it was a learning process for him, but he was still shoving the majority of his outings. And it was just whether I was good or not, like to me, he was hands down the best arm that I saw. You watch the video and you're like, okay, this is it. And then you get in the box and it's like, where is this organization getting all of these young arms?
It's kind of like the Dodgers. It's just like every single guy they touch just all of a sudden throws like 95 with some ridiculous
Crazy
movements.
I mean, the crazy part is in the States, you can kind of classify pitchers as a four-seam ride guy or a sinker slider type of guy. In Japan, every guy, majority of them are throwing 6 pitches and they're all doing what they should do.
Yeah.
Which was, tough to create a report or like a plan on each arm. Not only have you not seen these guys before, but, and you're looking at the scouting reports having to translate from kilometers per hour to miles per hour.
I got all that down now.
Centimeter break, versus inches break.
Yep.
Like all this stuff, like you're trying to translate this on a little sheet of paper and like trying to figure out what is what. And like, but you also haven't seen these guys before. And, it's a good baseball culture. I didn't underestimate how good they were, but even, the guys that threw on, the 5 starters, maybe didn't have the velocity, but they moved the ball around. They threw it in a soup can and you kind of had to pick your spots to try to do damage on a ball versus just try to take your hit.
I remember 2023 is when I first went to Japan to watch a baseball game, a Lions game, and one at the Tokyo Dome. And I was mainly just amazed by the fan culture. That was just, I'd never seen anything like that before. But I mean, the talent, you just had a clear idea of, okay, like this is not just a baseball country. They take it seriously to a point where I didn't think I'd ever see that before.
Yeah. Let me add one more picture though. Before we move on. Tanichi from Chiba.
Yeah, dude, he was good. He had a nasty splitter.
The righty, and
he's in my book though. I have him in the book.
I like that.
He hung a slider.
The amount of white powder rosin
that
exploded
dude.
from his hand and the ball every time he threw.
My gosh.
It was just a big cloud of smoke right at release.
I remember we were at the spring training, like that first game where he pitched.
Yeah.
And I remember like he threw one and I didn't even see the ball because I was just looking at the cloud. And the cloud popped and I was like, time. I don't even know how to say time, but time. Like, you can't let this too much. Like, I'm trying to like speak Japanese and I'm like, there's too much cloud, And he's like, hey, like he's like yelling at Tanichi, like, don't take so much rosin. Like he took so much rosin, especially in that game specifically. It might have been the background or because it was a day game too. It just popped worse.
But just the amount of like something that we're not used to seeing, and like you saw it more and more as the season went on. The cloud of smoke behind.
Yeah.
The powder behind.
You didn't notice it as much, but you saw it like when you weren't hitting.
Saw it.
When you weren't hitting, you're like, damn, that is a lot of rosin.
Yeah, because it's so humid, especially the places where it gets really humid, like in the Seibu Dome, like it's just stale air, just stale moisture, and it just sits there.
The ball flies in the Seibu Dome too. It's just flies.
Might be the greatest place in that league to hit.
Yeah, it's a good place to hit for sure.
Again, I'm not sure the sarcasm translates to an audio track. Mark, can you talk about the sort of thing I just alluded to, the fan culture in Japan? I know Dave talks ad nauseum about signing autographs on the trains and just being sort of overwhelmed with how loyal and how passionate they are. What were your sort of main takeaways?
I mean, to me, the culture of the fans was incredible. You get on the train and obviously we were the only Americans living in that town, and they all kind of understood where we were going with the train route we were taking, and people looking at you, wanting to come up and take a picture. It made you feel good. And then especially after the game, fans waiting and there's 50,000 people all trying to take the train at the same time. You're packed on trains and everyone wants autographs and high five, shake your hand. I went through it. You take an 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts and you're not running well or playing like you should. They're there to support you. Mm-hmm. They take the time to create your own hitting songs, and you could be down by 6 runs or up by 6 runs, and your fans act the same way until that 27th out is made. They believe that the game's not over until the 27th out, regardless of the score. And something I really respect about that culture is they are just so passionate about the sport and the true meaning behind the sport. And they love their players, the loyalty to the players, like a gift bag waiting to get on the train when you're struggling to make you feel better, or like people in that culture, it's always about let the older person sit down. The older people getting up on the train to let us sit, and we were like respectfully, no, like please sit. But just an unbelievable environment to play in front of, a respectful environment to play in front of, but also like how loyal and respectful they were outside of the field, and just nice and happy people.
I have one question for you about fan culture. What were your thoughts on Con Chan's shirt that he designed for you?
Oh, we actually, believe it or not,
We'll get a
I still
picture
have
of it.
it.
We'll get a picture of it.
I still have it. I look like a. I mean, he worked hard.
No, he worked hard, and he did it without meeting us. You know,
it was a great shirt, and he handed me one. He handed a couple of my parents when they came in town. But yeah, the drawing was an interesting. At least he gave me blue eyes, but the structure of my face was just an interesting. It was just. It was just
Caricature.
It was an interesting.
He looked like a possessed Keebler elf. That's what it looked like.
That's where I was going with it. It looked like the Keebler elf.
He looked like the
literally looked
Keebler
like
elf, and it was an awesome picture because, like, if you wore it, you knew that was Mark Payton.
That was,
And
it.
then he made a shirt of mine too with my face on it, and like it was like just like that perfectly like, just like oval head, like a perfectly oval head.
He created a relationship. He traveled.
Yeah.
You know, obviously in Japan, the teams travel public transportation, and especially coming home from series, a lot of the fans are on the same flight or the same bullet train, depending on where you're at. I think his wife spoke a decent amount of English to kind of have a conversation whenever we wanted to.
A little bit of English, yeah, for sure.
No, and it was awesome. And like those guys work as hard as we do during the games. It's really cool. And something that you never see in the States is like, you don't really see fans from home cities travel to visiting cities. Like you'll see people that live in visiting cities that are fans of other teams, but traveling with the fans that are cheering for you at the game is cool. And because they care so much about how their team does.
Mark, last question we have for you. If you could, you know, sort of go back, what sort of advice would you give to yourself, you know, boarding that plane to Japan?
Yeah. Well, first I would my off-season offensive plan would be completely restructured in terms of how to attack their pitching versus, you know, every offseason, you know, right now it's what are the majority of the shapes of pitches I saw, and how can I create a swing to match that without having to change. Over there, obviously, I think you need a little bit different of a path or a different load to succeed. Stuff like that would be the biggest thing. And I think I did as good as I could adapting to the culture. Outside of injuries, I would make sure that I was running more on turf, especially in the off season, to get your body ready to play on that surface. Even defensively, playing defense on turf versus grass, all sorts of things, not knowing what I was getting myself into going over there. And their style of play, it's fast paced when the ball's in play and guys are taking extra bases, and the games are a little bit longer with the no pitch clock and the amount of pickoffs and hit and runs and steals and foul balls and all those sorts of things. But to me, if I ever got the opportunity, would be basically how to attack their pitching after knowing what it's truly like versus, you know, what we were used to before we went over there. I think it would be a big goal of mine. Every offseason, I want to add 5 feet to distance, but I think that would be more of a, you know, if I ever got the chance to go back there, that would be, you know, something I would really consider doing in the off seasons. Like, I think if I played a full season over there, those would be the things that I would really, really work on. And then also making sure I was going over there with my arm in shape, and just making sure that, you know, your arm can withstand the 140 game season that they play over there, plus the 2-month spring. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm really fortunate to get a chance to play over there.
And next time, you know, it's Watashi wa, right?
Watashi wa. I got that down. That'll never. My name is Mark Payton. Yeah, never. I'll never. That's a word that'll never be forgotten.
Mark, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been great to listen to you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, guys.
And thanks for some of your Tokyo stuff, because when I do go back there, I do want to get to certain spots. But I'll have to hit you up about all the spots.
Yeah, we might need to get that barbecue place tip.
Barbecue place is good.
Yeah, that's
Smokehouse.
Yeah, if they're listening, and we're still looking for sponsors, so I mean, we're definitely open to anything.
Yeah, Smokehouse. So should we like tell them that we should have them subscribe again?
Yeah, I mean, if they want to, no pressure. But if you're into this Pacific Swings baseball thing, try saying that a few times.
It's his second language, guys. It's not his fault.
We're on all the usual places.
You can apparently get them on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube.
Yeah, we do this every week, so which is that surprises us as much as anyone.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes Jasper even remembers to hit record.
And that makes for a great day. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next week.